Hello everyone, and welcome to the GCARD3 Daily Wrap. My name is Turolla. I'm a PhD student, and I am part of the social media team for this conference.
And my name is Mary James. I represent the Agriculture Research Council, and I'm also part of the social media team.
So we are here this evening with some of the chairs of today's session at GCARD3 in Johannesburg. The theme of the GCARD3 conference is No One Left Behind, Agri-Food Innovation and Research for a Sustainable World. So I would like to hand over the floor to you if you would like to briefly introduce yourself and the theme you were chairing today. Judith.
So my name is Judith Ann Francis. I am the co-chair for Theme 1. Scaling up from research to impact. I am based in the Netherlands, and we had an exciting time with a range of speakers from all over the world.
My name is Danush Dinesh. I work for the CGIAR research program on climate change, agriculture, and food security. I've been chairing the sessions under the theme on demonstrating impacts and results, theme 2 of GCARD.
My name is Jethro Green, and I'm the Chief Coordinator for the Caribbean Farmers Network. I'm also the chairperson for the Theme 4, Sustaining the Business of Farming.
And I am Emmanuel Kafas. I am an international independent consultant on capacity development for organizations and individuals. And I am the chair of Theme 5, which is Better Rural Futures.
Welcome, everyone. So coming out of your first session today, how do you feel about the future of agriculture in one sentence?
Me, I feel extremely positive. We are committed to change.
Good to hear.
I just have one word, actually. I feel excited. Really exciting time, really exciting place, really exciting people.
Well, agriculture and small farmers feed the world population. I'm excited, especially now that research have partnered with us.
Promising, especially when we talked about foresight for the future and about collective action, so it's very promising.
So from the discussion today, I would like to ask the members of the panel if smallholder farmers are to remain relevant for the future of agriculture, what needs to be done differently from the different sectors?
Well, from our session, we thought that definitely impact at the level of smallholder farmers. We see them as an integral part of the process. We see that whatever we do in terms of research and innovation must contribute to the betterment not only of their lives, the nutritional status of their family, food security for their family, income for their family and the wider community. So at the end of the day, having looked at impact at global level, addressing global issues like climate change and food and nutrition security, what came out from the group is that we must impact at the level of the smallholder farmers, and then that will cascade up to global.
Yeah, I mean, this whole conference is actually framed around the Sustainable Development Goals, which represent a new development paradigm for agriculture as well as other sectors. And within that context and within the particular theme that I was sharing, what came out is we're not starting from scratch. You know, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. It's not a new start, you know. There is so much out there. I mean, there were so many of these programs which have been running over 10 years, 15 years, and have demonstrated their impact on the ground. And we can actually build upon them, you know, build upon them to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, to demonstrate impact, to measure progress, and all these sort of things. And that's what makes me feel so positive and excited, because we're building upon, you know, years and years of agricultural research for development. Yeah.
Okay. So who practically needs to get involved to make this change happen?
From our session, we saw the involvement of everybody. The research, the policymakers, we already mentioned, the smallholder farmers, the civil society organizations. In fact, one of the recommendations coming out from the group work immediately before this session is the partnership between the research and civil society organizations who already have the capacity to contribute to development. So that's just one thing, but maybe other panel members. But everybody is involved, even the private sector. We had a presentation which looked at a model which brought in the whole issue of smallholder farmers as entrepreneurs, and Jethro may correct me again because he always likes us to say smallholder farmers are entrepreneurs.
Jethro looks like he has something to say. Would you like to add on to that?
Yes, that's my area. Farming is a business, and farmers must be seen as entrepreneurs. It is time that we move away from this old tradition, because small farmers feed 70% of the world population. 500 million farmers, if we take a fraction of them and turn them into successful business persons, it would have significant social and political positives for developing countries. We need to move in that direction. And this conference, which is long in coming, is showing partnership, genuine partnership between researchers and farmers. It's going in the right direction. And if we build on top of the successes, we would move towards the future with confidence.
So Jethro, how was this issue of smallholders farmers in the future? How was this discussed? How did it came up in your session today?
Oh, everybody was excited. In truth and in fact, because we are very practical people, people came up with very practical suggestions. Just like what I'm saying, farming is a business. The future of farming is there. It can't be changed. We would always feed the world, but we need to ensure that more resources are available to us. We need to ensure we have the right policy environment so that resources would be made available to farmers. And we also need to understand that there are categories of farmers. Some people, we encourage everybody to grow food, but at the same time, there are categories of small farmers who are commercial farmers who go in this as a business, and they create employment for themselves and their family. And we have to make sure that we don't put everybody in the same boat or under the same lens.
Iman, so you were chairing a theme 5, ensuring better rural futures. What is the role of smallholders there?
Well, if we are talking about better rural future, of course, I mean, it has to be smallholder farmers in there, in addition to all the categories. Inclusion is the key, actually. Inclusion and communication, and inclusion at all levels. So I would, from the theme, what came out of the theme is inclusion, collective action, okay, and partnership. That's very, very important. And when I say inclusion at all levels, I think of needs assessment. So their needs need to be included, planning, designing, piloting of any project, implementation, and evaluation, and the feedback to redesigning the project. So at all steps, you have to include all the stakeholders and all the participants in a comprehensive system. So that's what we discussed today, actually, and the tools to realize that.
Right. So building up on your statement here, the theme of the conference, as mentioned, is no one left behind. How does the theme of inclusion come up in your sessions today? Judith.
I think the choice of the theme for the GCARD3 was fantastic. No one left behind. And as I was sitting here, I was saying that we need to insist that research is important to this process, but research is not the only driver. And that came out about we talk about inclusion, we're talking about the inclusion of research in the whole farming, and in terms of the research working with the private sector and the lessons feeding into academia and feeding into policy. So I think I don't want to repeat the words about excited, positive, highly motivated, etc. Inclusion, no one left behind. Research is important, but so are all the other actors. And if we work together, because it's so complex, everything is so complex, we can get impact at scale. And that's what we were looking at, impact at scale. We have to understand the complexity, understand the context, understand the needs of all the stakeholders, understand the capacities and where we can build capacity. And one last word, because I'm hoping that you don't come back to me again, is that we said one of the things that we wanted to develop is a whole culture of impact. So when we are doing research, we think about the impact and recognizing that we can have impact at different time scales. So thank you very much.
Yeah, I mean, in the theme that I was chairing, we focused quite a lot on demonstrating impact and results. And it came out quite strongly, the need to be inclusive. And we've been inclusive, and inclusive of diverse stakeholders, of farmers primarily, but also of the private sector, of policymakers across this, area of measuring impact. But what was also important and interesting to me was it was not just about, here's a platform, come and be involved, come and be included. It was also focusing very much on how do we enhance capacity of smallholder farmers, of different stakeholders in different parts of the world, and how can we get them involved and included. And I think that's really important for the research community as well as the development community to enable that inclusion.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, well, we talk a lot in our theme about clustering of farmers to gain economies of scale. We also talk about building strategic sustainable platform involving players that are of strategic importance to the farmers. But I think most of all, we talk about the new approach that we see with the partners here, in which respecting indigenous knowledge, also partnering with farmers as equal partners, as opposed to the old traditional approach to research, in which the researcher was up there and the farmer down here. So we are bringing theory and practice together. And in that way, we are moving in the right direction, and it could only mean massive reward for everyone in the future.
I would say that in theme 5, actually the structure, the formation of the catalysts and participants in the theme itself reflected the inclusion. So, so we put it in practice, as a matter of fact. So we had representation of farmer groups, they were there. The regional fora on research and development were there. The CGIAR was there. Youth, the YPARD was there with young people from, young men and women from YPARD, so also gender representation, and we had international NGOs. So you can imagine that with such an inclusive and diverse group, the conversation, of course, reflected the interests of each of these groups. So it was reflected in structure and content.
I just wanted to remind people that we're not only talking about research, we're talking about research and innovation.
Right.
And research and innovation, which also encompasses entrepreneurship. So this is the whole spectrum in terms of the new development agenda.
So you mentioned YPART just now. In the morning plenary session, someone mentioned that youth isn't as involved in decision-making in agriculture as they should be. So was this something that you addressed in your sessions today?
Question 2.
Well, okay, sorry. Yes, the youth were involved. In fact, the last two of the last 4 presenters in terms of coming back with the feedback from the working group sessions were young people. So they were integral. And then we discussed the capacity building. We saw success stories in terms of cases where platforms have been set up and programs have been set up in terms of research going to scale, where they are training a whole new cadre of young professionals who can take over. So that, I can say without a doubt, it was addressed, and it was addressed even yesterday when we had the Partners Assembly. So for me, we haven't left them behind. They will not allow us to leave them behind.
Looks like Jethro wants to.
Yes, well, in terms of youth involvement, we discussed that a lot in our theme. And the idea that we bring from the Caribbean and share from the Caribbean is that youth are not the future leaders of tomorrow, they're the leaders of today. And remember, the mistake we have made in agriculture is that we look at agriculture as just the farmer. But you have to look at the whole integrated system as a value chain. So on the farm, you have the farmer who goes to farm. Most of the time is a female or a male. And then, in some cases, the wife who does most of the marketing. And then the children we're encouraging in our program in the Caribbean to help with the record keeping, which is one of the weak areas. So everybody in a family setting can be involved in the farming, but it does not necessarily mean that everybody would be on the farm farming. Right. Okay? So we have to look at it in a broader sense, okay, in terms of agriculture. And sometimes when we focus on agriculture just on the farmer, we forget to see that all the mechanism that is required. If he doesn't have a good business plan, he can't go to the bank for money. If he doesn't get weather data or information, he don't know when to plant. If somebody doesn't sell the crop for him, or help him grow the crop, he doesn't know how to do it. So look at the whole broad spectrum of agriculture. And that's where young people, women, and everybody comes in. And sometimes when we tend to segregate it too much, we tend to do more damage than good. So we have to look at all aspects.
Okay. I have something to add here. Yes. Actually, I think that GFAR's initiative of including a high percentage, as a matter of fact, of young men and women in the meeting is made it easy for also for the themes to reflect this representation in the different themes. And when Jim Cano, the representative of YPART, actually mentioned in the morning, what we aim for is that in the coming 3 to 5 years, youth will be part of the decision making. After he came down from his presentation, I said, Jim, you don't have to wait. Why wait for 3 to 5 years? Actually, this is now you can do that through your involvement in the decision making in the different themes. So go and sit in the groups, actually in the round tables, and definitely whatever you say will be included, and you will be a participant in decision making. No need for the wait.
Yes.
So it is today, not in the future.
So before we wrap up, a quick question to each of the panel members. In 30 seconds or less, your take-home message from your sessions.
Culture of learning, innovation, and impact.
Thank you.
Good.
Danish.
Well, I see the most positive thing about this conference is that we are all here, 370 participants from all over the world, from all different stakeholder groups, businesses, farmers, researchers, all of them. And we are in the best possible scenario to actually address some of those wicked problems which were put up to us yesterday. So if not us, then who? Yeah.
Thank you.
Genuine, sustainable, transparent partnership like what we're building can only mean very well and greatness for the future.
No one left behind, partnership, collective action, and impact.
Thank you. So we want to thank you for your time and wish you the very best to ensure that no one is left behind. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, thanks.